views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. You are watching Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla. It is a pleasure to have you here this week. Oh, yes. It is that new format smell. You smell it? I'm so excited. For the first time in its way too many year history, Break the Business is something you can see. We are live streaming for the first time for our new weekly live stream podcast. For those of you who still love the podcast, don't worry. The podcast is not going anywhere. We're still going to have that up. What you're listening to now is going to be a podcast on Sundays, but right now here on Wednesdays, we are doing this live, folks, and I'm sure there will be lots of mistakes and you get to see all of them, but thankfully, I'm not here to make these mistakes alone. I am joined by awesome co-hosts, Evan and Elisa. Hi, guys.
Hello.
There it is. Mistake number one. Are we...
I had to click that button.
I had to click that button.
Unmute.
I had to click that button. Hello.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited for this. I'm so excited to have you here.
So many of your podcast listeners have never seen your face before, and this is going to be a...
Oh, my God. We got face reveal.
Face reveal.
This is great.
Because that's absolutely a thing, right? I mean, think of all the radio hosts you've always enjoyed, and then the first time you see them, it's usually kind of disappointing, right? You're like, that's not that's not the face I envisioned with that voice. I don't want to know what people are thinking
Scream?
right now looking at me.
What was the Wayne's World thing? Mr. Scream or...
Oh, no, it was Handsome Dan.
Handsome Dan.
Yes.
And now I can't remember the name of the actor who was actually Handsome Dan, and I'm never going to get there.
I think I actually know this. So obscure.
Oh,
we're going to talk about
obscure.
music industry, I promise. But first, we need to identify the actors in like a 25-year-old movie.
So worth it.
The guy the guy they thought was Handsome Dan was Ted McGinley, who's like the handsome guy and everything.
Yes.
And then I think the actual Handsome Dan, was it Dan Castellaneta?
No.
Like the voice actor? No, or
No.
Harry Shearer? One of the
Harry
Simpsons
Shearer.
voices?
Thank you. Harry Shearer. Yes.
I knew it was a Simpsons voice. I knew I was close. So this is a show about
Wait, but the other guy. Wasn't he the husband on Married with Children or something?
Yes, Ted C.
Mr. Scream.
McGinley.
Okay.
He's the guy you bring on a sitcom that's like dying, and then once you bring him on, you know that the sitcom's over in like less than a half season.
That's my entire IMDb credits right there. I'm just the guy you bring on for sitcoms. I'm here to look good. And podcasts,
you are definitely
apparently.
bringing the handsome this week. There is no doubt about that, Evan. So let me just give for the new people, because
we're off the rails.
There are some live streamers who maybe are coming across this program who've never listened to the podcast. This is brand new for them. So here's a quick initiation. I'm an indie entertainment lawyer. I represent independent creators. I love independent creators. You guys are my life and my passion. And for the past 5 years, I've hosted the Break the Business podcast, which is a program all about empowering you guys. We bring interviews, we have fun, we talk about news, information, all about empowering independent creators, whether you're musicians or voice actors or live streamers, podcasters, whatever you do. If you're indie, we want to help make you successful. And so I got the idea, being inspired by Evan and Elisa, who've done a lot of great stuff in this space. I wanted to go into live streaming because I wanted to go where the creators are. You guys are already here, and I'm, the grown-up coming in and ruining your party. How do you do, fellow kids?
You kids like Zima?
Hey!
Exactly right.
Thank you, Ryan, for making us feel young.
Exactly. Yes. So that's what, and so we're here for you guys, and I want you to always remember that. So I don't want this show to be a one-way street. We're happy to give you all the information you want, but I want you to get the most out of this. So if there's ever a topic that you want us to talk about, a question that you want answered, a person that you want interviewed in the entertainment industry, reach out to us. The email address is breakthebusiness@gmail.com. Let me know on Twitter @RyanKair. Let me know what we can do to make this show as awesome as possible for the indie creators like you. That's what it's all about. So we're going to talk about the entertainment industry and talk about how we can make your careers as big as they possibly can be. We're going to have some fun along the way, too. We're going to talk a lot of nonsense because, even for somebody like me who does this for a living, it gets boring talking about it all the time. But we have great guests as well. In the second segment, after the commercial break, we will be joined by Tim Exile of Endless Studio. You're going to like this guest, Evan. By the way, Evan, producer, musician. Tim Exile is the founder of the app Endless Studio, which is a cloud-based collaborative recording app. So you can record stuff from your various DAWs on your computers, cloud-based, and you can record together with other people and like work on an album together remotely, which is pretty great given where we are now, all stuck in our homes.
I have so many questions for them.
Well, yes.
Well, and I would normally have you ask all of them, except this guest was pre-recorded.
Damn.
Way to give it away, Ryan.
But most of the guests that we're going to have are going to be live, but we pre-recorded this one this week because it's the first episode, and you try to get somebody to come on live to a podcast that's never run before, except for you two. Thanks, guys. So that's coming up.
To
in
be
the
fair,
second
our
segment.
parts are also pre-recorded. You're just doing a really well job at talking around them. So when I just blurt out random things, you'll be off the mark is pretty much how we're going.
This is great.
Oh, God, that's funny. All right. So the first thing I want to talk
Yeah, my
to you
family's
guys
doing
about,
great, man. Thanks for asking. I'll stop.
How's the family? Well, now
My
you have
parents
to
got
talk
their
about
first
it.
shots, actually. They're doing great.
Oh, that is great news.
It is great
All
news.
right.
And
That's-
by the way,
that's
because
awesome.
this is the magic of live TV, just want to give a special shout out to everybody who is joining us in the live show chat here on twitch.tv/breakthebusiness. Shout out to some of the Elisa Rock Doc regulars are hanging out in the chat. So shout out to them and thank you for checking out a really cool show.
Leeching off Elisa's audience to get people to watch my stream. That's totally
I
what's
think
happening.
you got your new stream starting soon song right there.
I think I got that in the clear. We're going to make that a drop for next week. Perfect.
Hey!
So I want to talk to you guys about something that I noticed in the UK, of all places. Stories have been reported by all the entertainment outlets recently about how the UK Parliament has, for the last couple months, I think since October of last year, held a parliamentary inquiry, kind of like a congressional hearing like we have here in the States, where they've been bringing all the label heads and all the DSP people like in for a hearing to basically yell at them about all the things that are wrong with music streaming. You know, they last week they brought in the head of Universal and they were like, "Hey, head of Universal, isn't it pretty weird that, you know, you guys own a piece of Spotify, but you're also like a customer of Spotify? Isn't that a little conflict of interesty? Doesn't that sort of hurt indie artists?" And then asked another guy, "Hey, Spotify, you know, you're only paying 0.3 of a cent per stream, and all the other guys are paying 0.6 of a cent. Not that any of that's high. Don't you think that's a little messed up?" And it was a really welcome development, and I was jarred by it. And the main reason I was jarred by it is, where's that hearing in the United States? like
We've been a
this is
little
obviously
busy.
a big
A little
deal.
busy.
Why is only Europe caring about this?
Oh, we've been a little busy.
Well,
Also,
no,
Brexit
no, no,
right
no,
now.
no,
Like,
yes,
they're
yes,
busy
we-
too.
We've been busy with the whole
true.
like insurrection thing. That's fair. But Spotify's been around a lot longer than the insurrection has. They had plenty of time to get to this. But-
Spotify has lobbying money. That's why.
Hey.
Well,
Oh, and conversation. It's been a great week. Talk to you soon.
All right.
yeah, right. Good night, everybody. I want to see this hearing though. I want Maxine Waters to like take the
Reclaiming my time.
Take Daniel Eck to task and like
Reclaiming my
reclaim her
time.
time 600 times.
Yes.
I
Although,
want that.
So do I.
A question for some of our newer listeners, in case we have some new acronyms. DSP might be a new acronym to some folks. What would that mean?
Oh, digital streaming platform. So
Got it.
your
Oh.
Spotify's, your Apple Music's, your Pandora's, as the mom from Schitt's Creek would call it.
Your Pandora's.
So that's what that's all. You know, but the point is, and you guys said it exactly right. And I think this is the overarching principle that you indie artist, indie creator listeners, I want you to understand this. Okay, nobody cares about you guys, and that's a problem.
Damn. All right. Well,
Like, think
Bye.
about all of the major. Well, when I say nobody, we care about you. Elisa cares about you. Evan cares about you. But the people in power, okay? Think about all the times we've seen American congressional hearings involving the entertainment industry. They bring Twitch up on the stand because they are upset about streamers being able to use record labels' music without permission. Or it's like the PMRC back in the 80s mad because Dee Snider and Luther Campbell are using swear words. They're always about things that help the big industry, the record labels, the major motion picture studio places. We don't see the congressional hearings about how to help indie artists.
This is
And that's
called
because,
late stage capitalism.
Hey.
yeah, and there's nobody fighting for this group, right? The major motion picture, they have the MPAA. The labels have the RIAA. Big time performers, they have like AFTRA and the Recording Academy. But the people that are listening to this show, like, we don't have the voice that speaks for us in Congress. And let it be clear, a lot of the things that indie artists need are not things that are addressed by the law, right? Like the Music Modernization Act, okay, fine, it paid songwriters a little more, but getting 0.4 of a cent versus 0.3 of a cent per stream isn't going to pay your rent. Like, you guys need, you guys need unemployment for mixed income earners, which you didn't have until 2021. You guys need health care, which you did not have until very recently. And so one of the things that I think I want to try to impart on this show is getting indie musicians and indie creators of all stripes to understand that your needs are different from the needs of the rest of the entertainment industry, whether it's big companies like labels or it's big time artists like Beyonce and Jay-Z. They have different needs and wants than you. And you guys, we need to band together and start reaching out to your legislators now about saying, hey, when you get done with that whole insurrection thing, and maybe call a hearing or two about asking these streaming services why they pay 0.6 of a cent per stream or why Spotify pays 0.3 of a cent per stream. And I know, Evan, this is something that is like your cause of your life because I know you hate streaming services.
I love streaming services. That's the only way we should get music. It's technology. This is how technology moves, and the people like Spotify that run in at the beginning and make this technology available also crush the cost of it. It's not viable. Streaming is not viable for the people making the content. And
it's viable for the labels.
Oh, it's plenty viable for the labels. Don't make any content.
For big content companies, it's great.
No, but labels don't make content.
Well, sure. For the big content owners, a very important distinction, right? When you're dealing in big volumes, you're gonna make out fine on streaming, but for the indie creators, for the lower middle class of the music industry, you can't pay your rent on 0.3 of a cent a stream per time. You could potentially pay your rent $9.99 at a time when people are buying your albums on Bandcamp. But as the industry shifts into a streaming-based industry and music becomes less of a product and more of just a thing to stream, that's going to hurt indie creators a lot more than it hurts the big artists.
Yeah, but nobody's going to fight for us.
Well, that's why we're here, baby.
Except for Ryan.
Right. But look, let me put it to you this way. But I don't underestimate the power of the big people or of the little guy in big numbers, okay? We've seen no better example of this than what we've seen the last week, where a whole bunch of people on Reddit, a whole bunch of normal everyday people on Reddit are destroying hedge funds left and right by buying up GameStop stock. And so, there's power in our numbers. That's the one thing that we have over the other groups. They have their lobbying, they have their resources, we have the numbers. So it's calling members of Congress, it's protesting about these things. I've seen the little guy crush a lot of bad law for indie artists with numbers. Like, you remember the SOPA Act, the Stop Online Piracy Act that came out.
SOPA and PIPA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. These laws were going to potentially be bad for indie creators because they were going to destroy a lot of the platforms that indie creators use. And what crushed it? A whole bunch of regular people making memes on the internet until the legislators relented. So there's power there, but we just need to use it.
Power to the music players, as it were.
Bringing it back to that GameStop thing was insane. I want to talk about this because I'm not like a finance person, but I know enough about finance to know how completely insane what happened is. Okay, GameStop and Elisa, to introduce people to Elisa, although most of the people watching are Elisa's audience right now. In addition to being a musician, songwriter, professor, She's also very experienced in the gaming industry. I don't know if I want to, would it be uncouth if I like went over your resume? She was the voice of Tyrone Calypso in Borderlands 3 and was a revelation. Really talented voice actress and has worked in the video game industry for a long time. So Elisa, like GameStop, is not but by all fundamentals, is not a great investment, or at least it wasn't 6 days ago. Okay, it's a retailer, right? Brick and mortar,
correct,
trying to sell video games out of a box. And if our discussion about streaming services taught us anything, selling IP out of a box isn't the way to go anymore. And then we've created this scenario where all the hedge funds are shorting GameStop. Shorting meaning basically you're betting on GameStop to go down in stock, which you often do with a company.
To the tune of 140% of their, what was it? It's like they overestimated their value by 140%. That's why they're in trouble right now, the hedge funds.
Oh, they've lost billions. Well, because here's the thing about shorting a stock, and I'm going to try not going to be too finance bro-y about this.
Yeah.
Like when you generally invest in a stock, and like basically you're betting on it to go up, the worst case scenario, the worst thing that can possibly happen is you lose what you invested. When you short a stock, you're basically having somebody loan you the stock at one price. And then when it goes down, you buy the stock at the cheaper price and then give the stock back to the person that loaned it to you. And then you keep the difference. And so, but the problem with shorting is if the stock goes up, you're in big trouble because you have to cover the short and you have to eat the cost. And unlike a regular investment where all you can lose is your total investment, in a short situation, if the stock goes high enough, you can lose 5, 6, 7 times or more of your investment, like what's happening with these GameStop, with these hedge funds that tried to short GameStop. And then a bunch of people on Reddit said, hey, I think I know how we can mess with the hedge funds just for the lulz. Let's all pool our resources together. Every last one of us on whatever the subreddit was called, Wall Street Bets, Wall Street Bets.
Yeah.
And let's buy a bunch of this stock. And we don't have to keep buying it forever. All we have to do is buy it enough that the hedge funds have to eventually need to cover their short positions, buy stock to cover that short position, and then cause the stock to go such that now GameStop is a $25 billion company.
Curious to know the last time GameStop ran profits like that.
I feel Reggie. I just feel so bad for Reggie.
Who's Reggie?
Who's Reggie? Reggie feels like he has a board seat at GameStop, I think.
Ex-president of Nintendo of America, Reggie Fils-Aimé.
Oh God, beloved, absolutely beloved. And I just feel I don't know. I feel so bad because the reason that you're not just targeting any specific stock, you're targeting GameStop, which, if you look at the the Venn diagram of the Reddit audience and the audience that kind of knows how maligned GameStop has been over the last 5 to 10 years, that's damn near a circle. So, it's a clear pick for the lulz based on this kind of like social brand identity that they currently have, which I super feel bad that they have to dig themselves out of and pivot somehow, and then of course trying to do a retail in an industry that is increasingly online, and then a pandemic hits and then this happens.
So my big question for GameStop is, like we have friends that work for GameStop, right?
Yeah.
When I think the Reddit's trying to get the stock price over $1,000, and at that point everybody's going to sell. Right? Everybody sells, and the hedge fund's going to have to make up that money, and they're going to have to come up with that money, and they're going to go out of business, and the FDIC is going to cover it. That's how that was explained to me. What happens to their stock?
The government's going to have to bail them out, probably. Yeah.
Who's the government going to bail out? The hedge fund?
Well, I mean, the hedge funds manipulate the markets all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what they do. But like when the market manipulation hurts them, now you're going to start to see calls for regulations. Oh, we can't let these things happen, and And now, right, you'll see. I mean, I don't know if hedge funds are going to get bailed. Commenter writes in, stocks are horoscopes for dudes. They can be.
My mom's invested right now.
Like, you have to understand when it comes to what happened with GameStop, you couldn't do this with every company. Like, you could not do this to Apple, all right? For this to happen, you need a perfect storm of 3 things. 1, company with a small market cap. They can't have a lot of money. 2, you need to have a few outstanding shares such that if you buy enough shares at the low price, you can actually move the stock with like a bunch of people together. And then the third thing you need is something that nerds on Reddit care about. Because there are plenty of stocks that, and it has to be a stock that like a bunch of people are shorting, right? So it's like Redditors care about this stock and they know that hedge funds are betting against it, so let's try to screw with the hedge funds. And that's, so like you can't do this with every stock, but for the ones you can do it with, yeah, you can make a lot of mischief and make a lot of silly things happen in the markets. But I think it gets to the broader point, is this is the advantage that indie creators have, the same one that the Redditors have. Numbers. This is how you make legislators care about the things that matter to indie artists, like healthcare, like making sure that there's unemployment benefits for mixed income earners, like many artists are.
I remember the Napster and the blow up that Metallica got from that, and Lars Ulrich and blah blah blah. And when the Napster was first happening, I was watching X Play or some video game show, which is even funnier. And there was a guy wearing a T-shirt that says "I pirate music," and he was taking a stand saying that, like, no, I'm not breaking any laws or whatever. And it's really dumb to do on a television show, and as a host especially, to kind of promote stealing like that, which Napster was stealing. People were stealing IP
unequivocally,
content,
yes,
right? Yeah. But the consensus that I saw from the rest of the world, while musicians are on stage saying they're stealing from us, the consensus was, fuck you. Mm-hmm. I don't care. I'm getting my music either way. And honestly, as much as I would love streaming profits to go up, I don't think you're going to get anybody other than musicians. And there aren't as many indie musicians as there are. There's not enough people to swing the Congress. Like, they don't care. People are enjoying the fact that they pay $10 a month and they get all this music for ostensibly free.
And I think especially it's going to be hard training a generation especially that is used to only getting their music this way and only being able to listen to a YouTube video, or even being exposed to stuff like on YouTube, on Twitch, where fair use is and there's like there's absolutely no concept of what IP law is and what a copyright is and what ownership is and all of that stuff, because it's just like, I just push a button and I just get it for free. So it's I think going to it's a question of how do we somehow train folks to think of art to have some sort of value.
Well, the other thing is, if you give it to them for free for so long, and then you want to come back and say, well, no, actually, now we're gonna have to raise the prices. They're not going to want to do that. Like, the people that listen, like, they don't want their costs to go up.
Cough gold.
I mean, still, but like, Spotify is going to have to take the hit here. If they're going to have to start getting an office with cheaper rent and actually paying artists and stop taking so much off the top, because the price of the price of admission is not going to be able to go up, because people are going to Tidal or Apple Music or whatever, you know what I mean? And all of those other platforms are just as guilty. Everybody says Tidal and YouTube and whatever, everybody else is better, but nobody's good. Nobody's put forth like a sustainable market for streaming music. So
one of the things that I would like to see talked about more, it's starting to be talked about, but like something that's really seriously entertained by streaming services, is user-centric royalties. I've been really chatting a lot about this lately, but I think part of one of the reasons why indie artists can be adversely affected by the streaming services is because of how royalties are calculated. So what we have now with streaming services is what's called a pro rata pool. So the way streaming gets paid out, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this, is basically all the money we all pay to Spotify. Elisa's $9.99, my $9.99. Oh, you and Elisa are probably on a family plan or something. But all of our streaming amounts, it's a good deal. Two, of course. Yeah. So all that money goes into a giant pot. Everybody's money goes into a pot. And then you get your royalties based on your proportion of how many times your songs were streamed relative to the whole. So if Crimson was 10% of the songs that were streamed on Spotify in a month are Crimson songs, you guys would get 10% of the total royalty pool. That'd be a really good month for you. You'd probably never be on this show again. But the problem with that model, or at least as it's surmised, because there hasn't been a lot of studies done on this yet, but the problem with a model like that is it tends to probably help bigger artists, right? Because the yoga studio down your block that's just playing top 40 radio all day, 24 hours on continuous loop, those people are going to get a bigger proportion of that overall pool because that stuff's streamed all day. Meanwhile, if I spend my whole month streaming nothing but Crimson songs, Elisa, which I've probably done,
thank you.
On a particular month here or there, you still see very little money because I'm not going to stream as much as the yoga studio does. So that's the current model. What I think streaming services should be looking more into is this idea of user-centric royalties. So rather than having one big pool of royalties, treat every Spotify account, every Apple Music account as its own little pool. So the $9.99 that I spent, if I spend the whole month listening to nothing but Crimson songs, you should get my whole $9.99 instead of me subsidizing the yoga studio. And I think that generally indie artists, my hypothesis is that indie artists, the Crimsons of the world, a lot of the guests that we've had on this podcast, Mary
Try
and
More
Paul,
Mojo.
Hey.
Try More Mojo. Oh, that's right. I've tried. Okay, haven't given enough love to your band. I'm sorry. Right. The bands that I think I surmise that the bands that are in that group tend to have those kind of listeners, right? The ones that'll just spend half their streams listening to nothing but one artist. And so instead of only getting, $8 a month or less, like you might get, a whole $9.99 just from one listener if they do nothing but binge your music for a month. I think that's more fair. I think that's going to be more fair to indie artists, most likely. And I think that, it's something that should be considered. But here's the problem. The labels aren't going to go for that because they like the yoga studio approach.
Well, the labels are invested in Spotify.
Right. And the
yeah.
labels
Like
are invested in Spotify. And by the way, they have the most content, right? So if Apple Music's like, hey, we want to try this crazy idea with user-centric royalties because we heard about it on Ryan's podcast. And they're like, oh, that's cool. All right, we'll just pull our entire catalog off of Apple Music if you do that. So have fun.
I mean, so this isn't the first time this has come up, even on this show, even with me on this show, because you and I talked about this exact idea. I think when you're still in 2-digit episode numbers.
Hey.
So it's taken a long time to not happen. The other point that I might mention on this is that, yeah, that's great. So even if it's user centric, so I only listen to Crimson. I only listen to my own band. Sure, that's all I listen to, and I pay $9.99.
And you don't listen to Try More Mojo.
Damn.
Well, them too. Still, so we're
I do that.
gonna split my $9.99 between Crimson and Try More Mojo. No, we're not. We're gonna split whatever Spotify deems of that $9.99. So yeah, send me 2 cents. It doesn't matter, dude. Spotify's gonna get their money regardless. Spotify is the evil. The streaming services are the evil in this, and they are a necessary evil. But they're making this really hard for people that are trying to make a living doing it.
The overhead does seem to be sort of problematic. I mean, and again, I'm no tech genius, but it would seem to me that running a music streaming service shouldn't necessarily require that much overhead, right? I mean, if you're investing in
The service
playlisting algorithms or whatever, but like it's a program that you tell Siri what you want to listen to and then it plays it.
Yeah, but
And,
that's
and,
bouncing
and it
off
must
of.
not be that hard because there's a ton of streaming services out there. What was that?
No, it's just a lot of server space, and they're paying Amazon or Azure or whatever to host these songs somewhere, and the bandwidth to send so many millions of people to these servers every day is very expensive. The other idea is
That expensive?
no. Spotify could afford to pay people really well. How about that? But the other issue is the accounting portion, where the user-centric thing, instead of one Excel spreadsheet that has all the songs and, well, Rihanna got so many plays this. I don't even know if she's put out an album lately, but
Nope.
Where's she been?
where has Riri been?
Making
she's
most
making
of my makeup that's on
Put
my
that
face.
on the topic scroll at the bottom. Where's Riri been?
She's been making all of the makeup that I'm
She's making way more money on makeup than she ever did on
making
music.
so
I
much money
guarantee.
off of me.
Oh man, that's
Good
always
gravy.
how it is.
Yeah.
Like,
But here's the thing, I will say Rihanna is one of the only people that has actually put out a makeup brand and it's actually good quality. It's actually high quality stuff. So shouts to her for actually doing it correctly.
Well, but anyway, but to finish the point that I never
But see, even she has to put out a whole ass makeup line because she's not making enough money on Spotify either, I'm sure.
she's probably doing.
That's a good point.
okay.
Put a pin in that. But Evan, I know you had something, and we keep interrupting you.
Well, I keep forgetting it too, and I remembered it, and I think I forgot it again. So let's just move on. No, so the user-centric model, right? We have one Excel sheet, and then Riri puts out a song and then gets tons of money from it. Now you have to make an Excel spreadsheet for every single user, and there's no way they want to put that kind of money into that kind of back end. You know what I mean? Like it's going to cost them so much more to what? Pay musicians? That's not Spotify's. Spotify has no interest in paying anybody. They've made that very clear. So.
I have no idea what the back end would be for something like that. I know that Deezer, which is a lesser-known streaming service relative to Spotify, has said they want to look at user-centric and they want to seriously do it, but they're trying to get the labels behind them. So like that at least suggests to me that one streaming service thinks that this is operationally possible.
I'm sure the labels are just not going to have that.
Well, that is the other problem. Now, I want to get back to Elisa's point about Rihanna having to do a makeup line, because that is a broader point, I think, about the new music industry that I think underscores what we're talking about on this podcast, okay? The top shelf artists today, the wealthiest of the wealthy, they're not making they're making a little bit of money on streaming, but most of them, if they are super insanely wealthy, it's because they've invested in other businesses at this point, or they've done other entertainment projects, because the numbers in entertainment have changed. Like think about 20 years ago, okay? If you told Mariah Carey 20 years ago that someday she would be the host on a talent show or a judge on a talent show on network television, she would have punched you in the throat. And
then
now
if you would have told her what
that's
she would
the
be
most
making
lucrative
doing
job
that.
in show
Yeah.
business
Yep.
for her. Mm-hmm. You know,
Tell her how much money she's going to be making.
No. I mean, tell her that she's selling, shoes on HSN.
It's very fun and festive.
It's very fun and festive, but like
She has so
she'd
many
be
she
like,
has
what?
to now because the economics of the industry are such where artists don't go diamond anymore. So you can't just make money by the royalty checks coming in from your label.
Didn't
And
David
I
Crosby just sell his entire catalog or something to his
yes.
label?
Oh,
Yeah.
a lot of these guys did. I mean, and a lot of them are doing it.
Just
It's becoming the world now. But that's the other thing I want to impart to indie artists is the lesson that we're seeing from these streaming services paying 0.3 of a cent per stream is if Mariah Carey's not having the same lavish lifestyle from streaming services anymore, what chance do you have as indie artists? And so as indie creators, you need to be talking seriously about how do I create more revenue streams for myself? How do I diversify? How do I create my own makeup line? How do I create apparel lines? How do I get into other sectors of the entertainment business where I could potentially achieve success for myself? Because making money and living purely off of your recorded music, those days are done. They're done.
But the
And
old
so
guys,
we want to talk about that on this show going forward.
I'm saying the old guys will tell you that it was never the case. Nobody ever made money doing it. If you sold a record for $10, you maybe saw $1 of that.
That's
right?
true.
So yeah, if you sold 1 million records,
Well, yeah, because you had to like recoup your advance.
yeah, if you were lucky, you got to recoup
Yeah.
in advance. I don't know.
No, I mean,
but then
there's plenty of that too.
the old guys have also come along and said, yeah, streaming sucks.
So
So streaming doesn't
It's-
suck. Streaming is incredible. The fact that I can pull this thing out of my pocket and AirPlay whatever song I've ever wanted to hear to my TV right now, if I wanted to, is absurd.
it's a technological marvel.
I threw out my CDs like the
Yeah.
middle of last year. Like,
Yeah.
why are we still holding these? Everything is on the internet. I don't.
Like I love the fact that I can discover new music, not because I'm beholden to what a record label says should be played on a radio, but I have a guy on Twitch, which is a light violation. It's a light violation. Is playing new music cuts on Fridays, and then I just go in my phone. Ooh, I like that song. Search, add to library, and it's the way that I've discovered all of my new music
Big
for
ups
the
to Melon.
last for like the last 3 months. Big ups to the Needle Drop, Anthony Fantano,
AKA Melon.
aka
We live-
my favorite melon.
In a music industry where it's never been more possible for an indie artist to get their music discovered by a worldwide audience, no matter where you are in the world. It also happens to be an industry where it's harder than ever to make money off of that exposure once you get it. And so you have to change the formula. Now, it's use the music to get the exposure, to build that fan base, to get your tribe. And then once they're in the door, then you have to figure out what to do with them. Then you have to figure out how you're going to monetize them, whether it's a patron-based model, like a Patreon or something like that, or it's merchandising or something. But that's what we want to talk about like every week on the show. And I've only been talking about it for like 5 years and wrote a book about it and blah, blah, blah. All
whatever.
Right.
It's a good book.
We're going to take just a little break, just a light commercial break. And we'll be right back with Tim Exile from Endless here on Break the Business. Thank you so much for listening. Ryan Kairalla here. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you're getting a lot out of it. I do what I do because I care about creators like you. A lot. I've dedicated my career to helping creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations move forward. I do it by hosting this program, and I'm also proud to do it in my legal practice. If you're a creative professional looking for solutions-oriented legal services to help you further your goals, I'd love to help. My firm RKPA does contracts, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Visit rkpalaw.com to learn more. That's rkpalaw.com. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. You heard the man. Let's get back to the show. Welcome back, everybody. So excited to have you here. Let's go ahead and bring on our guest who's been waiting so patiently. This is Tim Exile from Endless Studio here on the Break the Business podcast. Happy to be joined this week by the creator of Endless, the music-making app that allows musicians to collaborate with others on creating tracks from remote locations using cloud-based software. Our guest recently launched a desktop version of Endless Studio in December, and you can find out more by visiting www.endless.fm. We're happy to welcome Tim Exile onto the Break the Business podcast. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. As I mentioned in the intro, it is Endless, ENDLESSS.fm. I got to know, why the extra S in your name? What's going on there?
Well, firstly, try and get a trademark for anything endless with two S's. It's pretty difficult.
As a trademark lawyer, I can appreciate that.
Okay, so an interesting fact about endless with two S's, the endless domain, endlesswith2s's.com, is actually owned by Amazon. So there's a podcast, I can't remember, I think it's How I Built This Podcast, where someone actually mentioned that they were building a shoe company based around that. Anyway, this is going way off topic already, but so it's partly about that, but it's also partly because it's a pun, really, because it's endless. The extra S suggests that it's music creation that's about doing. It's about musical journeys, and really journeys are marked by creative milestones, but really they are endless, and this is how we approach music making.
Perfect. So am I pronouncing it right when I say endless, or should I be more like endless and just keep going forever?
I think it depends. We've taken to just pronouncing it like endless with two S's, but if you want to emphasize the extra S, then go right ahead.
Well, the podcast has a limited time, so but rather than experiencing just sort of saying your name off in ad infinitum, I want to talk about the experience that people have on Endless itself. And just actually, let's talk generally about just what it's like to collaborate on these cloud-based programs, because I'm hearing a lot more about music creators collaborating online, all on the same sort of platform from different locations. Can you tell us a bit about what that experience is like for those creators? How does it compare to the more typical experience of just creating music alone in a studio?
Before I go into that, there are two types of collaboration that I think often get bucketed into the same thing. One of them is consensus collaboration, and that's a lot more common these days. I'd say consensus collaboration is the Google Docs format, where you've got a number of people collaborating, arbitrating on a single truth. And then you have conversational collaboration, and that's a collaboration that's a lot like how TikTok works. And obviously that's been very, very successful. That collaboration allows someone to come up with an idea, someone to then take that idea, give their slant on it, then someone can reply to it. So it's interactive and conversational. That, I would say, marks Endless out from a lot of other music collaboration solutions out there. And it's a really magical experience. The first time we got the technology running about 2 years ago, there were 5 of us collaborating between the UK, Germany, and the US. And it was spine-tingling, absolutely spine-tingling. And what our friend Joe, who was in the US, said afterwards, it was as good as being in the same room. And I think that's the really important takeaway from how it feels to use Endless. Once you get into a jam with a bunch of people, you feel like you're in the same room with them, trading ideas, bouncing off each other's very unique creativity.
That's so important right now. I think during the pandemic, as creators are all sort of huddled off into their separate locations, having those opportunities to collaborate using technology are more valuable than ever. And I appreciate platforms like yours stepping up to bridge that distance gap with technology to allow creators to create and to collaborate, because I think creators are at their best when they can work together, and using platforms like yours, they can do it. Do you have any advice for the listeners out there and the viewers out there on how to collaborate well effectively using these technology platforms? Because plenty of artists are familiar with collaborating in the same location, and that requires one skill set. But doing it on these platforms in a cloud-based interface is a completely separate skill set. Do you have any general advice on how these musicians can make that transition and collaborate well on platforms like yours?
Well, in the case of Endless, I think the rules are pretty much the same, I would say. As I said earlier, it feels like you're in the same room as someone. And so really just observe the same rules as when you're in the same room as someone else making music together. Take time to listen, take time to open up space for other people to put their creativity in. And also know when to talk, when to create, when to put your thing in. But it's very important to really try and up your game with empathy and listening, and also up your game in terms of listening to yourself. Listening to your inner creativity, because I think it can often be. It can often be easy to lose sight of your own creativity. So I would say listening is a very, very important part of it.
Well, and I would imagine that ability to achieve empathy and to remain listening to your collaborators and also listening to yourself is a bit of a transition when you're in remote locations and you have to adjust to it. But it sounds like you've really taken some steps with platforms to make that transition as easy as possible. And look, there are a lot of remote collaboration platforms out there for musicians. Can you tell the folks out there a bit about what you think makes yours different?
Well, as loop back on what I was saying earlier, I think with the way we built Endless it's conversational collaboration. It's not consensus collaboration. There are people on Endless who've then taken this conversational collaboration and turn it into something more consensus based. But Endless is really about come here, get into a musical conversation. And I think there aren't that many platforms that I know of anyway that are doing something similar. I would also say another different slant on this is that we're coming to the age of continuous engagement. All creatives across different media are now expected to engage continually, engage with their audiences, break open their creative processes. And so this is another big trend that we really built Endless for. We want to break out musical creativity so you can expose your creative process in a meaningful way, and you can use that creative process to engage people in a conversation.
Oh, and that's a really exciting process. And it fits with the way that people are collaborating now, as you said, which I think is really exciting. And speaking of things that are exciting, the fact that as of December, you've now transitioned Endless Studio into a desktop format, which I imagine is going to significantly expand the user base and the interactions that can happen from a platform like this. And that's really exciting. And folks, you can find out more by visiting www.endless.fm. Our guest, Tim Exile, the creator of Endless, joining us this week. Tim, before we let you go, one last question. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
So I'll loop that back to this idea of continual engagement. I mean, this is the most important thing these days. Continual engagement is very exciting. It can also be exhausting. So I think actually the most important thing for creators these days is to really double down on managing your energy. Particularly if you're creative, it's very easy to overshoot and overspend on energy. And, we live in the age of the marathon, not the sprint. So take it easy, do a little bit every day, make your creativity a journey, make sure that you're doing the self-care, and be open to engage in whatever comes your way.
And those kind of impulses to embrace self-care, all the more important in light of everything that's going on right now. So I love where you're coming at here. You're giving us advice and tools to collaborate during this difficult time, but you're also giving us some great advice on how to take care of ourselves during this difficult time. Tim Exile doing it all for us. Thank you so much for being on the program this week.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. It's been a real pleasure.
And that was Tim Exile, everybody. You can find out more about our guest's work.
I wanted to ask him questions.
Tim!
Wow, you snap in and out of that real fast.
Yeah, he had to jet. Sorry.
Well, you know it was live because you're wearing the same shirt.
That was so embarrassing. Yeah.
You're a lawyer. You have a closet full of those shirts, I'm sure.
Just that one shirt.
You know how many black T-shirts I own? Don't worry about it.
You know what it is,
Same.
guys? I'm going to tell you right now. We're a pandemic world that we're in. This is my Zoom shirt. This thing sits on the back of my chair all the time. I maybe wash it like once every 2 weeks, and it only comes on because I have to I'm not jogging in this thing. It only comes on for the brief amount of time that I'm in a Zoom meeting, and then it comes right off and I'm wearing a T-shirt again.
You're not.
And this is my world now.
You're not wearing.
Hashtag.
You're not wearing pants right now, are you?
Super not.
No, definitely not. Not even remotely. You want to see?
It's nothing I haven't seen before. Wow, you're really not wearing pants. Okay,
Basketball
never mind.
shorts.
Whoa. Okay, so we
This-
had a face reveal, we had a thigh reveal, we got a calf reveal. You're giving all the people what they want on like live show episode whatever.
Yeah, we
Just-
I mean, I already like just played the legs card on episode 1. I don't know where we go from here.
I can show you some places.
Endless is a cool system though.
That was going to say the one thing that I'm not even talking about the thing he was talking about, but he described working with other musicians on a song as a central truth, and that was so powerful to me.
Gave you goosebumps, did it?
No,
give you little goosies.
For me, music is two things. As long as you're not a solo act, right? It is tension and release, which is the actual music part of it. But then it is another thing that I can't remember right now. It's really important. No, music with multiple people.
I need you to release
Musicking.
that tension, Evan. You set
Right?
that up.
Musicking?
I know. No, music with
musicking?
multiple people is compromise.
And
And describing it as a single truth is very cool. Like everybody trying to get to the same single truth. That's very cool.
All right. So Lauren, who's producing the show, by the way, I'll shout out to Lauren.
Edit
Thank
all the
you.
things out.
Yeah.
She's going to put that back up here because this was a great comment that I wanted to talk about when we came back from the interview here.
Oh, Jean. What's up, Jean?
One of what I am almost positive is Elisa's viewers asked about a musician founding and running a podcast and what royalties can come from that. And I like this question, not just because it's a great question, but it allows us to talk about what I think is a really cool emerging phenomenon lately. Speaking of like taking on new revenue streams as an artist, of musicians starting to do podcasts. Certainly a lot of the big ones are doing it, right? But a lot of indie artists. MXM Toon, who's sort of a up-and-coming indie lo-fi pop ukulele kind of artist, kind of a big thing now with the Gen Zs. She started up a podcast, and a lot of artists are doing it now because it's a way for them to directly engage with their fans, let their fans get to know who they are on a more personal level and not just through the song. And if you can do it the right way, there are all sorts of revenue streams that can come from it, whether it's doing ads, which many podcasts have, or if you set the podcast up as sort of a patron thing, where it's, if you subscribe, if you're a patron to me on Patreon, you get access to this podcast, or I have the public podcast that everybody gets to listen to. But if you want the special podcast,
If you're trying to see anything more out of Ryan's legs.
That's right. If you want, if you're fine with just below the knee, then you need not subscribe. But no, can't even.
You did make sure to add the link to the OnlyFans as part of the Twitch bio, right?
Speaking of lucrative revenue streams,
Yo.
my goodness. So my two favorite music industry writers, Chertkow and Feehan, put out this book called like Making Money in Music. And every time they release a new edition, because it's like all the different revenue streams that musicians have, every time they put out a new edition, they have to add like 10 more revenue streams. And I'm almost positive the next version is going to have like chapter 98, selling pictures of your feet on OnlyFans.
So I have a book on the bookshelf that I was forced to buy in college. It's called Music, Money, and Success. And after 2 weeks of the class, I put a comma and a question mark, and now it's music, comma, or money and success. Hey, I got a rim
But
shot.
it's a great question, so thanks very much for the commenter for throwing that in. Lisa, we got about 8 minutes left, and
Allegedly.
I mean, we don't really, right? Like, it's not like there's it's not like local news is coming on after this. I guess if we stretch for a little longer, that's fine. Thank you for that comment, by the way. I saw that one run across my screen and just make my day. Elisa, you were telling me before we were recording that you are in the market for a new streaming service, a new distribution service for your catalog with Crimson. I want to hear about this.
Yes. I like how you say catalog, like I have more than 3 MP3s.
Well, there's also the jingle stuff we've done and the YouTube stuff we put together.
That's
and
true. That's true.
I guess that's not on Spotify.
That is not on Spotify.
We would get sued for one of those.
That is it is available via the Bandcamp. That is crimsonrocks.bandcamp.com.
It's free on Bandcamp and donations are encouraged.
Yeah. Pay what you like. $1.50 gets you the whole discography.
Hey, does that work, by the way?
What?
Does
Can
what
I just like record somebody else's song and then sell it and then tell people it's free but ask for donations?
If you are making it available for you're maybe getting the mechanical licensing.
Curious.
By the way, we do have a rep from the Mechanical Licensing Collective that's going to be coming on the show in 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. So you get all your
make that a 2-hour show.
That's
make
bananas.
That, that's dense.
And so that's going to be pretty neat. But anyway, okay, so fine. We'll just drop this in for like 30 seconds before you tell me about your new distribution service, Elisa. If you are covering a song, right, then you get into mechanical license world where you need to pay certain royalties to the songwriter to be able to use the song. If you're doing it on a streaming service, a la a Spotify or an Apple Music, they pay the mechanicals, and so you're all good there. If you are making it available for download, like you often would with Bandcamp or iTunes, then you have to pay the mechanicals, and that's that 9.1 cents per download you keep hearing about, right?
9.125.
Is it? Whoa, it went up. Look at that.
No, it's been like that since college, Ryan. We were in college together.
They should really raise that thing.
It's always been 9.125 cents.
Well, but you have to understand, like Evan, I don't remember the number because I don't traffic in those numbers anymore because we don't do it by copies anymore.
Nobody
it's the
traffics
streaming
those numbers.
services now where it's like 0.000 0.021 cents per stream or something for the mechanical license in the streaming world. But anyway, if you are making a song available for download, even for free, and it's a cover, you have to pay the 9.1 cent mechanical license. You can use a platform like Easy Song Licensing, and you can pay the mechanical licenses to them, and they'll pay the copyright holders. We can do a whole thing on that down the road.
I mean,
Well, I've seen this. A buddy of mine licensed a song for his like synthwave project or whatever, and he paid up front for like 100 streams of it or something, and that was their solution to like, how do we figure out how to pay these people? Does that work? What happens after 100? Are they going to come for you? Like, how do they know? Who cares? Like,
officially, we respect the rights of copyright holders and should pay
Absolutely.
people the licenses, all they're entitled to. But yes, in many cases, especially if you're dealing in small quantities, they may never find out. But
are they going to
if
get
you-
that
However-
$10 that he paid for that 100?
If you-
those-
Well, but here's the other thing. Again, if you're distributing the music through a DSP like a Spotify or an Apple Music, then don't pay Easy Song Licensing for the mechanicals because the streaming service is covering it. You distribute it through your distribution service. It goes onto the platform, and then it gets taken care of on that end. So don't pay Easy Song Licensing for something that Spotify is already paying.
Now, what's interesting is one of the reasons that I switched distribution services.
Oh, yeah, that's
is
Finally,
because
we get back to this.
is
Let's talk about my family
bringing it
some
back
more.
around. This is why I'm a host. This is what I want to do for a living. Just giving it, just bringing it back. The herding cats. So one of the reasons that I switched is because we're recording our new EP. Progress update video coming soon on youtube.com/ElisaRockdoc. But we're recording the new
Sooner
EP.
for Patreons.
Thank you. It will be up a day sooner for those of us who support via Patreon. Patreon.com/ElisaRockdoc. So we're recording that, but one of the songs that we're recording is a cover. Mystery cover that shall not be named just yet. But one of the cool things that, well, when we did our first EP, we did it through CD Baby to get it on streaming services, and we had to pay, I don't know, it was like over like $20 a song or something. It was a little like, it was a little dicey.
Big upfront costs with CD Baby.
Yeah, and that was per tune, and thankfully we only had 3 songs and not a whole album. But then I'm in a space where it's literally 10 years between recording EPs, and I'm in a space where I'm like, we could do a bleeps and bloops. We could do a Billie Eilish. We can make music so much faster now. We don't have to rent studio space. We don't have to herd the cats that are all of the musicians and producers and engineers that we have to get in the same room at the same time. And we don't have to do that anymore. So thank you, Walter. No one herds cats like me, and if anybody knows, it is Walter. I'm in a space where I want to be more prolific and do that thing that the Spotify guy said. Was like, well, just make more music then. Yeah. I want to do that.
I hate that guy.
I want to do that, but to pay like $20 every single time I have an idea I want to put on the internet, no thank you. So I moved stuff over to DistroKid because that is an annual fee for unlimited uploads. And then in speaking to the kind of mechanical licensing thing, there's like another little add-on that you can do where it's like, yeah, sure, upload a cover. We got you. We'll make sure that copyright, whatever royalty situation off of your streaming of that, like that's all taken care of.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Because we also traffic in covers on our Twitch show, and we want to produce like nice versions of the stuff that we do on our live show. No, we have to give ourselves like an easy way to do that. But you mentioned that there might be some interesting things about DistroKid that I hadn't necessarily heard about.
Well, yeah, there is. So it's a weird time to be getting into DistroKid because right now they're getting a little bit of bad press lately because a lot of Spotify is taking down a lot of tracks that have been hit that are being suspected of bots streaming them over and over again to get the streams up. By the way, that's another problem with those pro rata royalty pools with these DSPs is They are very vulnerable to botting because a bot can go in and just if you pay a bot to listen to your thing a billion times, then that person gets more money than they don't deserve, and everybody else gets less. Not as much of a problem with user-centric royalties. But digress. A lot of the tracks that came out of that bot dragnet that Spotify did were DistroKid songs. That being said, not hating too hard on DistroKid because there is a lot of truth to what you're saying about the model working well for your situation. This is an important thing for indie creators to understand when it comes to distributing music. Not all distribution services are created equal. And depending on what your strategy is for how you're going to put music out there, you're going to lean one way or another towards streaming a different distribution service. So, look, I love CD Baby, all right? Full disclosure, Kevin Bruner, VP of CD Baby, Chris Robley, Director of Marketing for CD Baby. They are friends of Break the Business. Had them on the show a bunch of times. They're great. The company's great. They do a good job. But if your strategy for distributing music is what a lot of artists are doing now, which is I'm not going to put out an album, I'm not the old way of an album every 2 years. Instead, I'm just putting out as much content as I can. I'm making music with my friends in the garage. We're putting out a new song every week and just getting it out there because I want exposure. And if that's your model, having to pay a company like CD Baby every time you post a song up front, that's not going to work. That the volume's going to kill you. Whereas whereas with DistroKid, where you pay the one fee and you can upload as much as you want without any problem, that works for the volume shooters of the music world. Similarly, another distribution service. Keep mixing up distribution and streaming.
I was going to say if
distribution service.
If that's for the volume shooters, then what's like the Tyler Hero like level of?
Yeah, the Tyler Hero is, right, like
sports references are so over my head.
Like CD Baby is the middle ground where, you're going to put out some stuff, but like you also still do big album projects. The ultimate of the I'm the album project only artist in terms of distribution services is TuneCore. If you think you're putting out music, just once every couple years, and you think you're going to do crazy numbers because you're kind of a big time indie artist, then you want to go with TuneCore because TuneCore, they're gonna charge you for every song you upload, but they're not going to take a commission. But they will charge you for every year you want them to keep distributing that music.
Oh.
Right. So I've seen a lot of indie artists that are low career get burned by TuneCore, where they put out their first album and go, I don't want the distribution service taking 10%. This song's going to do crazy. I'm going to get billions of streams, so I'm going to pay the $75 or whatever it is up front. And then they wind up getting very few streams. And then after a year, their song is gone because they didn't want to pay another $75 to keep it up again. Whereas if you're doing crazy numbers, you'll pay the $75 up front every year because you're going to save a ton of money not having this distribution service skimming off a commission. So depending on what your situation is, you're going to want a different streaming service or distribution service every time.
Well, I mean, how is your band approaching it, Evan?
So Try More Mojo, we put out our first EP last year in February, and we went through CD Baby because that's what I'd gone through in the past.
They do good work.
Yeah, I mean, no, and it went up fine. There was a little discrepancy of like when it was supposed to go live on the streaming platforms, which is a problem when you have a CD release party and they're telling you that your album it's not going to be up until like 2 weeks after that. So we made like a stack of 100 CDs and we like sold physical CDs and USB drives. Like, hey, if you want the album, yeah, it's out here. Please buy this because it's not on. And then the morning
you can reschedule the banquet hall, right?
Well, and then but the funny thing is the morning of the CD release party, it just went live. They just never told us, which is a problem because we didn't have a chance to promote it, which is great. But yay, it was up on time. So we're actually moving to DistroKid for all of our future releases because they so far they seem to be better about getting it up to the streaming platforms faster, but it's easier to deal with for the most part. I don't know.
And I found that even features were like, hey, by the way, also pro tip, make sure that that your band name is not so common that you have to fight with having a bajillion artist pages that all say Crimson on them, and all of them have all sorts of different music that is not yours on it. But one of the cool things about DistroKid too is that it has a cool service where it's like, hey, get this person's music off of my page, or get my music off of this other Crimson's page. And it seems like it's a pretty easy, low friction way of doing that, which is something that I have to deal with a lot because I picked a common ass name for my band.
So the
It
band
is
that was
hard
in
to Google.
the band I was in Miami forever was called Juke, and Juke is still out there, and they're still making music, and they're awesome. But they have the same problem. They're not the only band named Juke. There's probably 10,000 of them, and they're like Juke's songs are on so many different artist names, which is annoying when you're trying to search it. But where's the money going? Because if they got it wrong on the page, are they getting all the? Is that Juke getting my money? I don't know. Yeah.
I want to say that DistroKid had that in the FAQ that was like, no, because like every your thing is, or like every song itself has an identifiable basically UPC code.
They have ISRC numbers. That
Yeah, and that is linked to you, the correct person, so it should be fine. It just sucks for discoverability.
Yeah.
This would be a great jumping off point for an awesome conversation about trademarks and registering a trademark in your band name.
Let's do
But
it.
we're going to have to put that pin in that for a later show because
To be continued.
gotta keep them coming back, baby. Thank you all very much for watching the maiden voyage of Break the Business as a live stream. This has been an absolute treat. Let me just do a quick begging session here. Please, I would say, smash that subscribe button, but a gentle click will do. That's a brand new subscribe button. Please don't wreck it. Just little...
Oh, you just got flagged. Your whole stream just got muted now.
What?
Demonetized.
because
Lisa's saying something.
Yeah, okay. Scared me for a second there. Yeah, so subscribe to Break the Business on whatever platform you're watching this on, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. You can, if you have a question that you want us to talk about on the show or a topic you want us to talk about, or you just want to say hi, you go to breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan, Kair. That's my first name. And the first four letters of my last name. Evan and Elisa's Twitters are right there. They are far more interesting follows than I, so I would... Oh, Evan doesn't tweet much, but when he does...
Oh, it's really important.
It's actually
stuff.
Watch
pretty
the F
great.
out.
If I'm tweeting, it's only tweeting at the the Rocket City Trash Pandas. Which
You
is
are
it.
you are the Udonis Haslam of tweeting.
That's right.
Everybody go check out the Rocket City Trash Pandas. The AAA, AA, I don't even know. It's a minor league baseball team. It's a feeder to the Angels, but they have the best mascot and logo ever.
Oh, we're going to do that topic. We will definitely do funniest minor league mascots because we got into a rabbit hole on this.
The
you
answer
and
is
me
Trash
once.
Pandas. Thank you, Alex Prevet, for pointing me in that direction.
But yes, thank you so much. And also, by the way, I'm going to do this because you're not going to do this yourself. As you are plugging yourself, if folks would like to support Break the Business in a financial fashion and not just by watching, liking, and subscribing, where can they go? To
Buy
give you
my
money.
book. Buy
Oh,
my
there's a book, of course. Yes. If you're a book person, if you want to, I wrote a book about how to move your career forward as an indie creator. It's called, also creatively enough, Break the Business: Declaring Your Independence and Achieving True Success in the Music Industry. You can check it out at Amazon. It is available in paperback, ebook, and if you're not sick of my voice yet, audiobook.
The audiobook is very good. I got to proof listen to
That's
that.
right,
and
you
it was
did.
It was.
a very fun listen.
Well, that's very nice of you. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. Please tell your friends so we can keep this going and build a big community to empower indie creators. Thanks for watching Break the Business. We'll see you next week.